Hello and welcome to Stockyard Sessions, brought to you by Atlas Ag, the team behind Atlas Carbon and Atlas Grazing. I'm your host, Victoria Lawrance, and a proud member of the Atlas Ag team. This podcast is about going back to the beginning, the soil, the decisions, and the people who aren't afraid to rethink how things have always been done. Today, I'm joined by Jake Smith from BJS Farming, an operation running across 5 properties in the New England region of New South Wales. It's a family farming business with deep roots in the area, but also one that's been through a fairly significant evolution over time, both in how it operates and how it thinks about land management. Jake's also spent time working as a livestock agent, which gives him a slightly different lens on how farm businesses actually function beyond the gate. More recently, the business has been exploring a shift towards more nature-positive and regenerative approaches, including involvement in a soil carbon project supported through the New South Wales Government High Impact Partnerships program. But what makes this conversation interesting is how all of this is playing out in real time. Because right now, this part of New South Wales is in a severe dry period, and decisions on stocking, land condition, and business direction aren't theoretical, they're immediate. Today's episode is really about that intersection: family legacy, changing farming systems, soil carbon, and what resilience actually looks like when conditions turn tough. Jake, welcome to Stockyard Sessions.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming. Can you paint a picture of BJS Farming's operation across Gilgurry, Wellington Vale and beyond?
So we are a breeding and backgrounding operation. So we breed everything and we don't sell any weaners. We keep our heifers and steers all the way through to heavy feeder weights, usually join all of our heifers actually. But yeah, into the future looking to actually direct to market beef. So yeah.
Yeah. How long have the 2 properties been in your family, and what's the story of how the operation came together?
Wellington Vale, we've only owned it for probably 4 or 5 years. Before that, it was a sheep place and a cattle place also. The Eastern Country, Gilgurry, it's been in the farm family for generations actually, and I couldn't even tell you how long, but a very long time, like my great-grandparents, yeah.
Yeah, right. Do you know what the original enterprises were?
Originally, it was all just breeding and selling as weaners, and then it would have went to sort of breeding, and then everyone used to keep a few bullocks of their own back then and background them out to heavier bullocks. So,
How's that evolved over time for you guys?
When we just had the Eastern Country, we just used to sell everything as weaners, and then with the purchase of Wellington Vale 4 or 5 years ago, that's sort of evolved into the backgrounding arm of our business, which has been a really, really good. It's been a great part of the business, great for the business, for growth.
And you've got other properties as well?
Yeah, we got some lease country, which really complements our breeding country. So lease country south of Tenterfield and west of Tenterfield, and that really helps us with our numbers. We can afford to have a few more cows drop out and top those numbers back up with the heifers bred on the lease country. So works out really well.
Yeah, amazing. Have there been any pivotal moments or decisions that really shaped the direction of the business?
Probably the direction of the business before was quite conventional. What really actually pivoted my understanding around and put me on a path to regen ag was I had a client that moved to the Tenterfield area, and he was quite prominent in the regen ag space. And he shifted my perspective, probably just nudged me along for a couple of years, which would have been good because I probably would have put some walls up if he had to just put it all on me. But yeah, he sort of nudged me towards regen ag, and now I'm really heavily involved into it, yeah.
Yeah, great. How do you balance respecting that legacy, I suppose, of it being in the family for such a long time, but making changes for the future?
Yeah, look, I think, back whenever that was, it was probably, labour was more available. There was probably more direct sales or a closer supply chain to sell into. I think these days you sort of got to diversify a little bit with your enterprises, just to spread the risk out a little bit, which is breeding and backgrounding, and then you add a carbon project on top of that, and potentially a direct consumer beef brand. I think, I think that's just the way of the future, really.
So I know you've spent time working as a livestock agent. What did that experience teach you, and how has it influenced the way you run your own business?
So, well, it really taught me, you see a lot of different operations, and you see the people that are really successful and got it nailed down and the people that don't. I just took little bits off everybody and sort of put that into into our business. But around here, very conventionally grazed, a lot of set stocking, a lot of superphosphate every single year. And so I'm not sure I could really take anything from that except what not to do and look for another direction, a more sustainable or a regenerative model, which is what that client of mine did for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think learning what not to do so you don't have to go through the pain of making those mistakes is so critical.
May as well let someone else make the mistakes.
Yeah. Did you always see yourself coming back to the farming, or did that evolve over time, or what did that journey look like for you?
I was always farming from the moment I got my licence. So from 17 onwards, I was farming while I was working as an agent. And the two work really well together if you can do it, but I found myself spread too thin and I just couldn't do both. So I was getting a bit let down in the agency work, just not being there focused all the time. So I sort of put that on the back burner now and don't really do much there and really focus on the farming. I've got another client still in the agency that's really focused on regen too. So it's good to keep in the game a little bit and connect with those people. But yeah, the agent work just had to take a bit of a step back, but always was going to be on the farm.
And what sparked that shift towards more nature positive or regenerative practices? I know said that you've seen things go wrong with more conventional practices. Was there anything else that sort of got you on that path?
I think just seeing the cockies that just, they spend half their weaner check every year on fertiliser and then they're still feeding in the winter, and it doesn't seem like a very good business model to me. And I think if you can sort of just twist that a little bit and it just seems like a better business model really, just to get out of that mould, and do something different, like people are scared to do something different, I think. And that's half the battle, just having a go. Yeah.
How did you approach it to begin with? Was there a gradual experimentation? You're talking about doing something different. Did you do things slowly? Or was it a more decisive, all right, this is the direction we're going and this is what we need to do?
No, so I sort of didn't really know what I was doing at the start. I just started mobbing different classes of cattle up and moving them around, probably very, very loosely with no education, probably moving them once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then gradually got more into it, did a RCS Grazing for Profit course, and then read heaps of books. I've done a few courses since. So yeah, loosely grazed for probably, I'll say 4 years, and then got a little bit more intensive. And as to where we are now, we're sort of right down the track. So it was definitely a gradual thing. We were pretty lucky. We didn't have to sort of wean off any fertiliser or anything like that. We weren't heavy fertiliser users, or we weren't growing any crops really or anything like that. So we're very lucky that way, and we weren't using a lot of chemicals. So I think you're better off gradually getting into it though, because the people that just go cold turkey, bang off everything, I think you see problems in their business for the next few years. So it's definitely gradual for us.
What kind of problems have you seen when people do that?
I feel like so the country's like a bit of an addict to your chemical fertilisers and things, and if they just cut them off cold turkey, you see massive drops in production on the farm. So grass grown, the animal production, you just see massive shifts in that. Whereas if you can sort of reduce that over a few years, the business doesn't have to wear the brunt of that so much.
What about the impact on you personally? Because as you said, people are nervous to try new things, and sometimes when producers do try new things, it can be a bit alienating if you're not doing the same way that everyone else does or that your friends and your mentors are doing. Was there any impact on that?
I'm probably lucky I've got tough skin. I don't really care what anyone thinks, but I'm also lucky that all of our country's not really on a road that anyone can see. So we're pretty lucky that way. We're not like on the highway. So probably a bit lucky that way. But definitely, there's a couple of neighbours that sort of wonder what you're doing sort of thing. But then you look over their fence and you don't have to wonder why you're doing what you're doing, because you can see the results. The fence is pretty good evidence.
Have you had anyone look over the fence and come and ask, what are you doing differently?
Look, yeah, not really the neighbours, no. But other people around Tenterfield, they sort of hear of someone else what you might be doing and they give you a call, or, not really my neighbours, no.
So have there been any surprises, good or bad, that you didn't expect or that have cropped up along the way?
The biggest surprise probably is just finding out that there really is no limitations to what you can do. probably better off not knowing what can't be done. Because I don't think anything's impossible in this space. I don't think there's any point you can take it too far.
So what first got you interested in soil carbon projects, and how did that partnership with Atlas Carbon come about?
Attending the Wilmot Field Days and saw Atlas Carbon there, and I think it's just another way of diversifying your income stream. I mean, the markets, especially cattle markets, are so volatile at the moment. We're seeing it at the moment. And we didn't go into it for a profit-making thing. We just went into it for just backing up the business pretty much. Like, it's always just there. Not saying we might not even sell any ACCUs, but they can sit there. And look, in Atlas, we sort of explored a couple of options, and Atlas were, I believe, the best choice for us. Just the support's really good. And obviously access to Bart Davidson is quite a good thing too. So it wasn't a complete profit-seeking tool. And also to verify realistically that what we're doing is actually nature positive. So in 5 years' time, we'll either know whether what we're doing is has really good compounding effects or negative effects, which I doubt it'll be negative, but really trying to prove that. And also, I think one day, not so far into the future, there will be market specifications that state that you have to have a certain amount of carbon credits, or you have to be in a carbon credit project to get into this market. So I think that's also another positive part about it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I guess for those unfamiliar, how would you explain what a soil carbon project actually involves on your property?
Well, the soil carbon project really, it's everything to do with grazing is how we've structured ours. So the eligibility is intensifying grazing. So we have cut a heap of paddocks in half, and we're actually using Kiwi Tech polywire fencing to really nail that down also. And as Joel Salatin says, put a brake, an accelerator and a steering wheel on the cattle, and you can put them wherever you want them. So we just intensified grazing, and then, well, the team from Atlas really did the rest for us. Like, it's actually quite a simple process. Yeah, and intensify the grazing, and then we test, every 5 years. We did our baseline, then we'll test again in 4 or 5 years and see how we went.
I know you're part of the New South Wales Government High Impact Partnerships. How did that funding play a role in getting your project off the ground?
Look, cash flow is obviously a big thing. So it helped with baselining. It'll help with water and wire. It's been probably one of the things that really got us over the line into a carbon project, to be honest with you.
Yeah, great. So what changes have you made or are you planning to make as part of that project?
So really what we're trying to do now is intensify the grazing, which comes with an added challenge of adaptability of genetics. So our path now is chasing genetics more based or suited to our area. So we've actually bought some semen from the States, South African breed called Mashona. We're going to infuse that with our cattle just so we can really get that intensive grazing adaptability there. I find that some of our cows can really handle it, and we're putting a lot of pressure on these cattle to perform for us under some really harsh conditions, high density, making them eat pretty much everything. And you get a lot of fallout. You do get a lot of fallout in that sort of system, but as I said before, the adjustment places help with that fallout, bringing heifers in, and so it's a bit of a good turnover like that. But that's probably our biggest focus now is the genetics of the cattle and really nailing down that grazing.
And I suppose the funding from the High Impact Partnerships grant helped with that side of things as well?
100%, yeah. Its biggest bonus will be the water and wire. Yeah, that'll be the biggest thing. And obviously with the price of everything these days, I mean, the funding really helps with your cash flow and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Has being involved in a carbon project changed the way you measure success on farm at all?
I think it just turns it into a metric that's actually measurable. I think it's hard to measure success on a farm on paper, but a carbon project is one way to really nail it down. 100%. It's a bit hard to say, well, you don't know. You don't know what's happening underneath your feet unless you really get that spade in there and have a look, but then it's hard to measure, right? But with a soil carbon project, it just cuts it clear and you know exactly whether you're going forward or backwards.
So beyond potential carbon income, what benefits are you seeing so far? Can you see anything on the ground?
I know that our resilience has gone through the roof since nailing down our grazing and trying to get the plants more vigorous. We're sort of into drought later and out of it earlier in the dry spells. we just hang on a bit better. The grass seems to hang on, and it actually nourishes the livestock better in a regenerative fashion. So I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, so you start to see sort of maybe decreased worm burdens and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. And we don't use any wormers anymore in our cattle. We want to, as I said, breed for an adapted animal. So anything that gets wormed, that gets wormy, we do worm it and then we sell it. So we won't breed from that animal. Decrease worm burdens, just more grass. There's more grass on the ground. That's really the biggest thing. So
Yeah. So what do you think about natural capital markets? I mean, you've worked in agribusiness, you've worked on farm. You know, do you think this will become part of core farm businesses in the future?
I really do. If you look at it per hectare, if you can do a really good job of your grazing and everything that you do, I think it could be a potential game changer for farms that can, of a scale big enough to make it viable. I think it could be a very, very large chunk of their income.
Yeah. So we're actually sitting out in a paddock not far from you. How far are we from your place at the moment?
As the crow flies, maybe 8 kilometres.
Okay. And right now in this part of New South Wales, we're experiencing quite an extremely dry period. I mean, just looking out, what we can see at the moment on the paddock is good ground cover, but very dry. Yep. Can you share some insights into that current conditions and what it means for you?
Yeah, so we've had a very large rainfall deficit this year, had quite a good spring and then nothing since. So our place in particular at Wellington Vale, it's only had 43 mil this year so far. So it's really dry out there. You know, some people around have been feeding for a couple of months. We've only just started to keep a few steers going. My angle on that will be actually to adopt a bit of an American style and do some what they call, the regen fellows over there called bale grazing. So just involves setting all the bales out in the paddock and using polywire to split it up and only giving them, 2 or 3 days worth at a time, and using automatic fence lifters and such to let them into the next paddock. And I think that's going to be, I'm trying to make a positive out of a negative and really do it on our worst paddocks and trying to drive some ecological function into those soils. So when it does rain, they spring back. Everyone knows that, where you feed some hay or something like that, it's your best soil for the next 3 years, or the best grass growing potential there anyway. So yeah, just trying to make a positive out of a negative in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you would have been around during the 2018-19 drought as well. How does it compare what you're doing now, back from how you manage that?
We've been pretty proactive with selling. We have destocked a lot of stock that didn't need to be around. So we've been good like that. I feel like we possess the tools to be able to do that now. And I mean, also the know-how really, which is another thing that Maya's good for too, is forecasting, Atlas grazing, forecasting, that sort of thing. So that helps. We're a lot better geared up this time. Yeah, as in we've destocked already. We've got a lot more grass on the ground. And as I said, the system's got some resilience built into it. So I think on the other end, coming out of it, will be a lot sooner to bounce out of it.
Yeah. Was it some pretty harsh lessons back in that drought in 2018? Yeah.
That was our first sort of real big hit into a drought. That was a lot of lessons there. But obviously being proactive this time, we can manage it a lot better. Yeah.
So has your shift towards different land management practices changed how resilient your system is? Can you start to see that already? Or
100%. Yeah. It's very damning actually. Yeah.
Does being part of a soil carbon project influence your decision making during that tough season? Have you got that in the back of your mind, or is it all about grazing first?
Look, it does, yes. I think you got to do what's best for your business, and whether that be, obviously the soil carbon project's part of your business, so you got to look at that too. But as I said, if I can do some bale grazing and enhance that biological outcome in the soil coming out the other end, I think it'll be a net positive, not a negative.
Yeah. I mean, how do you, when you're looking at those short-term versus long-term impacts and seeing reduced pasture in your paddock, how do you start to go, how can I think beyond what I'm seeing right now and think what's the impact, in years' time, as opposed to just what's in front of me now?
Look, we're just trying to keep ground cover, which is one positive with the bale grazing. It'll just be in one paddock, and you can run a lot of cattle in that paddock with a lot of hay. So keeping the ground cover over the rest of the farm is probably paramount. Yeah, obviously that's paramount to coming out the other end and growing more grass before everyone else does.
Yeah. So looking ahead, 5 to 10 years, where do you see things going? Have you got specific goals for the property, for yourself? What does that look like?
Look, I think my main focus and goals for the next 5 to 10 years is obviously just really focusing on the cattle, the genetics, and just trying to build that really adapted animal, zombie apocalypse proof, they call it. And just so, when tough times hit, they can really handle it and thrive in those intense conditions. Anyone's cows, all people's cows have got crutches, right? Whether that be low stocking rate, feeding in the winter, whatever that might be. I'm just trying to build a cow that doesn't need any of those crutches and that can thrive in a system that you're making them eat every blade of grass on the ground. So to really drive that system forward.
Yeah, right. What about tech? Are there any particular innovations, practices, ag tech out there that you're keen to try or interested in?
Yeah, look, I think the grazing collars are what is going to be really interesting. I'm not sure. I haven't done a lot of research into them, but I think all of our properties are disjointed. There's 4 separate properties and then plus the agistment, and it can be hard to get around them all to do intense grazing when you've got to drive so far. There's 2 hours difference between them. So I think the collars could really be a game changer, but I'm wary that may disconnect the farmer from the place and their cattle. So I think they're a good tool when used properly, but I think people just need to be a little bit aware of that disconnection with the land and the cattle.
Yeah, for sure. I interviewed someone else who said you can't beat getting out there and making sure that it's validating what you're seeing with the collars and making sure that that's feeding back to, ground cover and grazing practices and all of that.
Need the boots on the ground, that's the thing.
Absolutely. I think it's just another tool to be anything that adds more data to your decisions can only be a good thing as long 100%. As it doesn't take time away from boots on the ground.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to other producers who are curious about carbon projects but unsure where to start?
I think there's some negativity around carbon projects for some reason, but I think people just need to do the right education, get educated and, give someone a call, find out that actually knows what they're talking about. I mean, we had a little bit of pushback with people when we told them we were going into a carbon project. I'm not sure where that negativity comes from because it's been really good. And the risk is minimal, I believe. So just get yourself educated. That's what I'd do.
Yeah. I think the thing that we really like about the soil carbon side of the industry within carbon projects is it's all productivity first. And everything you're doing within this project is to help with the productivity of the place. And it's only going to benefit the soil health and your cattle and that whole cycle.
Yeah.
If you could go back 10 years, what would you tell yourself?
Get educated sooner. Just really do some courses, dive into yes courses, dive into books, dive into different resources. And you don't have to do 100% of whatever they say, but do it all and take the bits that suit your context. I think context is a big thing, but get educated sooner. Yeah,
that's a very sound advice. And what keeps you motivated through the ups and downs? I mean, right now is a perfect time to think about that, where it's tough conditions at the moment. Fuel prices are sky high. There's lots of things working against us. How do you keep motivated during these times to keep going?
I'm probably a little bit blessed. I'm pretty positive sort of bloke, but I think it's just the love of country and cattle. And that's, you really got to love it to do it. Some people and you can tell the people that only half love it and you can really see that reflected in their operations. But yeah, just the love and passion for it is what keeps me going, yeah.
Amazing. Jake, thank you so much for being on Stockyard Sessions today.
Thank you.
To all our listeners, thank you for joining me for the Stockyard Sessions podcast, proudly brought to you by Atlas Ag, the team behind Atlas Carbon and Atlas Grazing. To learn how you can optimise your grazing operation through better pasture health, stronger livestock performance and increased soil carbon, visit atlasag.com.